Good morning, evening, afternoon. Morning, evening, afternoon, night. Good night, wherever you may be, I guess. Hello. I wanted to talk to you about a series I did for Fnatic, which was really fun to do. I learned a lot, so thank you to those guys that they gave me the opportunity to do such a fantastic and creative project. And I'll be going over a little bit of not pre-production, it's just prep mainly. I just take you over some of my workflow things and how they might be able to help you in your workflow and your general sense of content, I guess. And using this kind of a structure that I made for myself is one of the reasons why I think I really enjoyed this series, is because I had a clear goal in mind with whatever I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach these things. So that's why I hope this might help you in the same way. So let me check my notes before I forget, because I'm kind of a boomer. Let's get started with the overall goal of the whole project. The series was called Fnatic features Noob. So the whole concept was a pro sitting next to a noob and teaching them how to play the league. That was the simple concept. And we did 2 seasons of that. I'm not going into the differences between those two because they don't really matter that much. It's mainly just the whole mindset behind it and how I approached it from an editing standpoint, and how I tried to select based on these parameters that I made for myself. And that's what I'm kind of discussing with this. So not really too deep into editing, mostly just touching on some of the choices I made and the mindset behind it. So yeah, that's the overall goal. It's educative, it's entertaining, and that balance and that kind of a scale is what we're trying to balance here in this case, and in a Fnatic way. So that was kind of my brief, I guess you could say. So whenever I was confronted with all this footage and everything that came into play here, was first of all making a little list of how I am able to make each player shine, right? Because all these pros have different identities, different personalities, and different kinds of brands, so to say. One more known than the other. So that was kind of the challenge, right? So how can I show the pro player the personality while they're confronted with a situation where somebody is not that good at the game and they're watching, and like, how are they gonna react, to the whole situation? So that's kind of the whole thing with their personality, right? So that's something that was one of my first priorities in this, is just making sure I could show that, let that shine through, and let that be the driver of the whole video, right? And there's some more sub things that really emphasize this point too, so I will be going over those too. So of course I already talked to you about the educative side. That's kind of the added value that comes through with this video, apart from being entertaining, which already is really nice and really good to have. Also building an educative layer on top of that is great. It helps out a lot. It helps other people, it helps players. Like, those are the same things. And how are you able to make that balance tight and nice and not feel awkward and kind of nice and dynamic? And that's where Pete comes in. And what Pete does to this whole series as the noob, so to say, is he creates this really interesting dynamic, right, between the player and the content and the whole content piece in general, right? That's what makes it Fnatic, like actual Fnatic, right? Apart from the branding stuff and whatever, like we all know the color stuff that needs to be done when it comes to brands and stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the glue that mixes this series into a nice and fluid thing. And that's what Pete is in this case. He is the glue that makes it all stick together, right? Like, if you put anybody else there that doesn't really have a personal connection to these players, and that's what Pete has. He works with them for a long time already, and he knows some of the players for a long time, so he already knows how they might react and what they can do and what kind of path Pete can take, right, when it comes to a certain interaction. And also, I mean, if you're a pro player, you're not always down to do some content, right? That's also where Pete shined through and made this feel really entertaining and fun for them too. So I'll be showing some examples here and there when it comes to that process here. I have the first episode open from season 1 with Nemesis. In my opinion, Nemesis is always like a really interesting character, personality when it comes to an on-camera person. What makes Nemesis Nemesis, right? So in this case, I know he has a OnePlus meme going. Like, that's one of his children. It's his wife, you know. Like, he's married to it. Like, that's his thing, you know. That makes him. So knowing that beforehand really helped me with the whole process and the idea behind it. And Pete, of course, already knew this as well. So that's why he, for this episode, made an intro segment, which had, let me get this, which is this part here, where he pulls him from his desk and brings him with him. I'll just let it play for you so you see what I mean. And this is kind of a really personality-defying thing when it comes to getting to know Nemesis, right? And how he is as a person and his personality. So just shines it through, right?
Wait! Bring me back. We can go.
For me as an editor, I feel like my job to also know these type of memes and how they can be communicated, right, to the audience. So in this case, I just emphasized it a bit, nothing too crazy when it comes to editing. It's just emphasizing the moment, like, oh, I forgot something, and like, oh, it's his holy child, you know, let's go. And just that theme is throughout the whole video, right, just emphasizing his personality. And having all these kind of things in the back of your mind really help me as an editor to decide which moments to select, put in, roughen out, and actually finalize to create a really fun product in the end, right? Because this was not meant as like a, how could you say, like a highest budget production, right? Like the editing is not supposed to emphasize that at all. So for me to be more playful in this type of editing and make it more like timing based and just more playful, because that's the right word, made this a really standout piece for me when looking back at it. I made it like 6 months ago or something, and it's still one of my favorite things to look back on, just the whole process behind it and knowing how playful the whole interaction was in general behind it, right? That's what makes it relatable. That's a hard word to say for me. And that's what kind of brought out the best in Pete and also Nemesis, right? And for me as an editor, I just emphasized everything with that mindset. Like, what makes him, what makes it Fnatic, and Pete is the glue that holds it all together. And I'm just there cutting and emphasizing moments with sound effects and music, and like, all props to them. They laid the groundwork for this, and I just did the rest. It was beautiful, and I loved every moment of it. It was great, and we did this for every player in the team. Like this playful style of editing and this, yeah, just these little things that are there with the players. Like these certain memes that play with Selfmade being toxic sometimes and too direct. So we really doubled down on that, for example, for the Selfmade episode. And Bwippo is really talkative, Reckless is really instructive, so I kept that more down low and more fluid and slow in those moments, for example, and Hillesang as well. So they all had like the different types of editing needed and required, but that's why I think it's harder to talk about the editing of this episode, because I can't talk about the editing without having that mindset and that format and everything beforehand. Like, what makes Selfmade. What's the dynamic between these people? Like, how can I show this dynamic as well? Like these little funny moments between them. And that's what makes Fnatic vs Noob probably, in my opinion, a really good content idea in general, and a really good piece of content that I was really grateful to have worked with. So I hope you got something from this in general. The whole pre-planning in general is really important. Don't overlook it, especially when it comes to certain selection and the direction you want to take. So I would highly recommend you having a little notepad there that says, oh yeah, like even if it's just defining the person you're working for or working with, like what makes them them? Like, what certain traits do they have? Like, in this case, Nemesis has his 1+ thing, right? Selfmade has his toxicity thing, right? Like, how can I create videos that emphasize them as a person and create something that's kind of timeless? And that's what it is. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that's the way, but I feel like that's what makes me feel like I have done something for a lot of people, and I'm happy I was able to do so. So again, I hope you learned something. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I know this can be quite abstract when it comes to certain pre-planning stuff and brand and personality and what makes them them and all these other things, formatting or whatever the subject you might come up with. So feel free to let me know in the comment section or whatever, DM me, I don't mind. We can talk about this. I'm always open to discussion or talking about certain subjects. So again, thank you for watching. I don't know why I'm making this, I guess, just to help somebody out there. So I hope that was you. Well, have a great day and stay safe. It's the most important thing. Don't do stupid things, and believe in what you believe in, do what you have to do, and make the world a better place. That's where I'm gonna leave it, because otherwise it might get kind of cringy and awkward. Yeah.